So today's conversation is about how we as parents and professionals can support our children to find and create that sense of belonging, even when the path looks different or takes a little longer than we expected. So I'm delighted to introduce our panel. We have Sarah and Deb, who are both parents navigating this journey, bringing real lived experience and wisdom from the trenches of daily life. And we've also got Kate. So Kate is an occupational therapist, speech pathologist, and CEO of Spot Therapy Hub. And you bring over 20 years of clinical expertise and a deeply neuroaffirming approach to supporting families. So thank you all of you for being here. We're going to have a short conversation, but then we're going to open it up to you all. So there's going to be some question time, because ultimately, as Mello said earlier, we're all learning from each other. And that is, where the magic happens. So I'm going to throw you into the spotlight first, Deb. All the way down there.
Hello.
When children start school, everything does change. The routines, the expectations, the people around them. What helped Elston start to find her place and feel confident in this new stage of life?
Great question. Can you hear me all right? Beautiful. Sorry. 1, 2, 1, 2. You want to sing me a song? I'll sing you a song, Frank. So I reckon there's 5 areas that answer this for our family. And that was being prepared before school started, support encouragement during school, being organised, a real sense of connectedness to her day and day and responding accordingly, and the things that happen behind the scenes. So lots of practical things like having a lunchbox and stuff organised is really good for my daughter. She's got Down syndrome, she's 9. Having larger zips on bags so that she could be independent and not relying on teachers, so that she can open her bags herself. So really, really sometimes teeny tiny things, right? A picture of a teacher, her new teacher on the fridge. Things like going along to the school and going to events like community fairs or carols, that kind of stuff, just so that she has a sense of the school. Talking about the school positively, going for walks down to the school. We live quite close. And talking about transitions and library and Kindy Triangle, because my daughter went to the prep that she went to, that was part of the school. So they did great transitions with us. So some of that kind of stuff was really important. And then support and encouragement during school. So asking her about her day, she couldn't always answer but asking her was really important to us. I would scoop the information from other parents. What's the kids been doing at school? And they used to tell me, and then I used to talk to her about that. So it's been Sally. Your kid's voice might not be here yet, but you can certainly ask them about stuff and include them. Any information I could find about a day. So, but also being organised, social stories. If anything came on Seesaw or whatever app that your school used, nicking those images and making social stories and talking about them regularly enough for her to understand and be able to share. We've just got a Nelly. Have you heard of a Nelly? No. We've just got a Nelly device. It has changed our world. I wish I had it earlier. So she's 9. It sits on our counter. Okay, I'm going to go there because it's honestly brilliant. And Nelly, we got it under funding. I know,
yeah,
I know.
Nelly?
Look, it's not that exciting, but it's enough. But a Nelly, it sits on the counter, and you can add daily tasks in, and they press. It's almost like an Asana for kids. If you work on Asana, and you press but when they do a task, I'm so excited in front of the chair. When they do a task, they can press the thing, and rainbows and all kinds of, have sounds, and well done, Elston, you did it. Go to the next one, and then she go and do the next task. It takes the nagging out of it. She comes back to the thing. Okay, I need to get my dress on. Goes and gets a school dress on. Nelly, Nelli. Brilliant. It has honestly changed our week.
I think that's the hottest tip from the conference so far.
Is there a prize for hottest tip?
There should be.
Right? You can customize it as well. So it's got your kid's name. They can choose their own little character, own color. And my other son does it as well. So my son does it, my daughter does it. Anyhow, Nelly. You're all writing it down and Googling it right now. Lost ya. So, and then also a real connectedness about her day. So friendships, play dates after school. She can't go late into the night. She's got long sultan and all that stuff, but straight after school, she's like, can somebody come and have sushi? Yeah, they can. So we invite a friend over to come have sushi. So we do a lot of those kind of connected things. Get to know a teacher. Is there anything that she needs? So we got a box, we called it Elson's toolbox. And essentially it was anything that at school just helped her settle. Ear defenders, fidgets. Fidgets did go flying, so fidgets got taken off for a bit. But, you know, things that really helped her settle in school. Then behind the scenes, advocating for her, focusing on what she could do rather than what she couldn't. We know this. And doing this about me, you heard Jen say it in the last, doing an about me. I do one every year and I update it and send it to therapy, medical, teachers, if they've got a support person at school. So that's some of the practical things that we do.
Amazing. And a bit of a shameless plug, but we will be running All About Me workshops in January for anyone that needs to update.
Oh yeah, if you know somebody who does, they're really, teachers have said to me, we wish every child, every child's in and about me because they get to know their kids quicker.
Yeah. Sarah, your boys are a bit older, but we know it can take time to find the right space where our kids truly fit. How did you go about finding activities or groups that reflected your son's interests and gave him a sense of belonging? Because I know it's been a bit of a journey, hasn't it?
It has. It was really tough. I think hearing from all the wonderful, great people I've spoken to today and just being in the room, I had to work hard at first being comfortable to create my own village, and that took a lot of bravery. And I had to be really vulnerable, and I had to start focusing and working on myself first, because we spoke a lot about involvement from the lovely Mello and Jen about modelling. And I struggled with this because I'm also a trained early childhood teacher. Well, I knew that was going to happen.
Don't take much, don't worry.
And I also
We were practicing before we got here and we were both falling off all the time.
I was modelling not to fall off the chair, see? Practicing what I preach. So I had to do a lot of work on myself and a lot of soul searching, because if I was okay, if I was supported, I learned that both my children were going to be themselves. And I talk about being brave and raw and vulnerable because that's hard as a sole single mum. And I guess as a teacher, I had to practice what I was telling and would tell my parents that I would teach their children. And sometimes I'd be like, why can't I do this with my own child? So I had to learn and, teach the teacher, literally, and go back. And we've spoken a lot about it today, following our children's lead and interests. And sometimes what we have to remember as a parent is that it's not just about us, but it's about the journey and slowing things down and following our children's lead. And in that moment where they are, not where we want them to be, and Mello so eloquently spoke about this, we're so desperate for our children to be included and validated and heard. So I focused on what he was doing really well and what he enjoyed. I knew that essentially he wanted to play soccer, so we started off small. And I say this because Josh would watch from the sidelines. He would cheer like his mum. Go, son. So we joined the local club. It was tough. Again, I had to be vulnerable. I had to be brave and bold. And it was really hard because I had two different children with different interests but wanting to play the same sport. So there was a lot of, tag and you support him and not me. And it was tough. But, it started off with being in the sheds with the other boys. It started off with carrying the ball bag, working in the canteen because Josh got to love money and he would count and he would serve. So we were ticking those boxes socially. He was having fun. And then I'm a proud parent now. I can officially say I'm officially a soccer mum because I've managed and I've coached. I can't believe I coach soccer. But yeah, it's finding what your children really like and what they're interested in, slowing it down and really meeting where your child is at in those moments. as much as we desperately, and I say, I don't know if Bree remembers this, but I remember saying, I really want to come to this conference and share what my son does. It's not fair. He never does anything. And I'm proud to say that today I can share that my son is valued. He's been a part of a soccer club because he wasn't before. So, you know, keep at it. It will happen. Start small and build up on it.
Amazing. It's like those steps towards inclusion, isn't it? Kate, for many families, it's not that the children don't want to join in, it's that the environment isn't set up to support them. What can make a community space, a club, a school activity genuinely welcoming for children with disability?
Yeah, this is something that I'm very passionate about, and I'll just add to my little bio as well. I'm also the mum of 4 neurodivergent kids, so raising very, very, very complex ADHDers has been a big part of my journey, and I often talk about the fact that despite having walked this journey as an OT and a speech pathologist with families, it wasn't until I actually had my own children that I really had my own nervous system put to the test 24/7. Like there's not a tip for that, or a quick tip anyway. And that piece of inclusion is something that I'm very passionate about. I've founded a directory as well with free training for any service in Australia, not just disability education or health, because I'm that mum who has taken my daughter to ballet and just really felt like almost it's not fair for us to keep going. It's not fair on other people. And also I hope that everybody here thinks that I'm a bad parent, because the alternative is they just hate my child and they think that they're a bad kid. And so really trying to find swimming teachers or violin teachers and all of that stuff has been so hard. But what I say now, if you put me on the spot in a 30-second, I know I've got a bit more than 30 seconds, that's why I'm doing the ramble, is that inclusion is actually really, really simple. To me, it means everybody's nervous system gets to feel safe, but that can be driven for all of us by different things. So it might be sensory, it might be about the motor demands, it might be about the emotional demands, the social demands, your communication style, the cognitive demands, which is big at school, and the executive functioning demands. And so in acknowledging that complexity as well, we know that different settings can't do it all for all people, or that when you're in a community space and you've got a diverse group of people, some children, for example, if you're thinking about early childhood education or even just school, like some, teachers will find that children will feel more safe if they're not in their face first thing in the morning and that they aren't right there, welcome Johnny, how are you? Whereas other children will love that. My kids are those ones. If you don't do that, their attachment instinct won't transition from me to the teacher, and I can't go unless you've actually activated my child's attachment instinct to you. But that's where the nuance of making sure that the teachers and the educators or the karate coach or whatever knows your child is just so important. So it is around as much as you can, and this is, you focus on your child and advocating for your child. Make sure the people that you're leaving your children in, the care of them, make sure they know, about your child. Don't be afraid to speak up. For me, I think, what creates an inclusive environment is that you feel safe to express what your needs are, and also that you don't always have to explain everything about your life story. That, an inclusive environment is one where you can say, this is what we need, and somebody will just say, roger that, and that you don't need to say, because my kid's autistic, because, and I think the next part of it as well, though, is knowing that every environment probably can't cater to all the needs that you have, but you can still be a safe place for someone to ask and a safe place to honestly and respectfully say if you can't. And so even just a story that I'll have from this morning, I took my 5-year-old to a birthday party, which was a pamper session, and it was in a very small bespoke party centre where parents weren't allowed to stay because it would exceed the numbers of people allowed in the room. And of course, 20 kids, 4 to 5 were neurodivergent, and they said only 2 parents could stay when the 5 of us with neurodivergent kids are all like, who's going to go? And then the party convener, who was following the rules of biosafety and all of that sort of stuff, said, well, look, now that your children are calm, you have to leave. Like, you're allowed if they're crying, but if they're not crying, you have to go. And I'm thinking, well, obviously if I leave and I'm not co-regulating with my child, they're not going to be okay. So inclusion for me this morning would have even potentially been that we left the party without any shame or guilt. That it would have just been like, hey, that's cool. It was nice to come for the first 20 minutes. Can you give us a party bag? And that wouldn't have seemed aggressive or nasty, and, you know, that it all would have just been fine. So I don't know if other people would judge that as having too low standards, but for me, that would have been fine. My child came, she gave her present, she, you know, put on a bit of lip gloss, and that would have been okay. But I didn't fully experience that. I felt we sort of stuck it out a bit. So yeah, you know, it's very individual as well. And I think just trusting the validity of whatever it is for you in any environment or on any days is the best thing you can do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, thank you for sharing that and your little story from this morning. Deb, I'm going to come back to you now. Sometimes belonging comes from following our children's lead rather than steering them towards what other kids are doing. How has Elson's strengths and interests guided the choices you've made about where she spends her time?
We're going to know this, say and hear this a gazillion times, but knowing your child is so important. But do we really know our child? I know that sometimes I've kind of guided her in places because I wanted her to be part of something. Yet knowing your child makes you kind of go, actually, let's do this a little differently. So she's got this big love for dancing now. She's got Down syndrome. If you know many, and I know it's a stereotype, but if you know people with Down syndrome, they're first on the dance floor and they're often the last to leave. But they don't follow any rules. They kind of do their own spirit dance type situation, and I love it. So we looked at a dance class. My son loves dancing as well. I wanted him to be a soccer mum, but he became a dancer. I'm all right with that. All right, I've worked it out. But the dance class that my son goes to is very structured and very organised. Now Elston is very, you know, put a ballet dance and dress on and bring her flags and she's off. So it was finding somewhere. And also as well for my kids, I'm an older mum, so my son is probably going to be a carer a lot younger than the average child if we pass early. And so I'm very conscious of space for him and space for her, that they've got their individual stuff. So Frankie goes to this very organised, and it suits him. Elston, we found this wonderful place who the woman has this very free range way of doing things, finds out which songs that the kids love, and she plays accordingly. And it just very different. Also, Elston's is on a Monday night, so she's not exhausted from school week. So it's a Monday night, 4:45 till 5:30. Perfect. So it's kind of finding things that suit. So I want my son to be a caring child, but I want him to also not be a young carer too early. I want him to have space, but I want her to have space. And interestingly, the first time she walked out the door and she turned to her brother, and I thought, what's going to happen? She goes, "This is my dance class. This is mine." I was like, okay, let's do the cycle. Okay. So I just said to him, "Give us space today." And he's like, "Okay, Mum." So we sat and watched and cheered her on, and she was just free range. So it suited her doing that, but being conscious that your children need their own space and where to belong. And sometimes it's pulling back from therapies and clinics and fun activities and doing other things. So it's like in our area, we've got Timbernook, which is a nature-based program. She loves mud and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. So it's finding things that is therapy, but without being in a clinic. I remember Elston going to this one. We started this new physio, and this physio was in this corridor and goes to her, "Okay, I want you to walk up there." She said, "I'm just going to see how long it takes her before she tires." And I'm like, okay. So she goes, "Walk up there and then come back, Elston, and walk up again." So Elston did 3 laps of this, and then she just stood and she went, "But where am I going?" And I'm like, she makes a good point. Where is she going? If you got her to do laps, she would have just kept going and gone, "Oh, what's along this corridor? What's along this corridor?" She was going up and down. And I was like, this is not going to work. So we do other things. So it's working out, even in the therapy space. You're all laughing because you've all been there. So play dates are a massive part of Elston's life. So after school, I work with somebody who does skill development. She's young and vibrant, and she gets more out of her than what Elsleiman was getting at clinics. So bringing somebody in the home, mud kitchen, slime, all that business, doing fantastic. And the other thing is, what we do is January is our exploring time. So there's lots of free things that you can do in January. So, do all in Christmas, and then January, we've done circus, and I'll go, let's see what's on this week. So finding things, and that's how you find out what they're going to like or what they're not going to like. So circus, she was up on, all kinds of stuff, and it was so much fun. So doing stuff like that in January is a great time to kind of work out what they're all about and do trial and new things. Sometimes it's like, that didn't work, and other times it's like, that was awesome. So yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Is that enough?
Yeah, and it definitely is a lot of trial and error.
Trial and error.
Trial and error. And I think
Yeah.
regardless of whether your child has a disability or not, I think for all children it's trial and error
Yeah.
to find out what's the right space, the timing.
And she went in a dress and she's upside down on rings, and it just didn't work. Like the dress was over her face, and we're like, well, we just laughed about it in the car and just went, it was great trying. Well done. We loved that trying. Yeah.
And that, I guess, Sarah, we know that not every space is the right fit. How do you decide when to keep encouraging?
She really doesn't like that.
It's not the right fit.
It's not the right fit. How do you decide when to keep encouraging your son to try, or when is it better to step away and look for something new?
Look, it's really about trying to follow their lead, and that's really hard, especially as a parent, because you don't want to be too controlling. You don't want them to go too slow to the point where they're not doing much. It's really trying to observe, follow their lead. For Josh, social and emotional was a really tough, big one. And for a long time, we never got invited to parties. And that was tough for us. And Josh would see his brother, who's a social bubble, and he wouldn't get invited. So again, I talk about being brave, being vulnerable. I had to bring people into my house, into my space, and I had to make it work. And I used opportunities where I knew Josh was really good at. So sometimes we started off at the park where he felt safe. And the park was really great because Josh, for a very long time, would watch from the playground at other people playing. And he wouldn't, because of his anxiety as well, he wouldn't go up and talk to people. I see him now and he'll go up to people and he'll say hi and he'll say, "I'm Joshua." If we look back, he would never have done that. So I'm really grateful that I followed his lead. And I think if we start off with something simple, and so often we're so desperate as parents for our children to shine and we want to make a difference for our children. But if we just stop, I talk about slowing things down a lot because I've had to do that a lot as a single mum who's had to juggle parenting, and it's done me the world of difference for myself, but also bringing up my boys because I've got to see where they can shine and where they can grow. And I loved watching Josh, especially at the park where he was socialising. Yeah, it might have been with the toddlers and the bubbers at times, but he was a leader, he was a model. And he was playing, tick, we're ticking those boxes. He also loved and thrived from being around adults who he trusted, and that's how we built. Another thing we learnt was him going swimming because we had a phobia of water. He hated, showers. Yes, he showered, but it was a lot. And building him up, having my village, and I talk about having our own village and us being supported, does essentially help. So the neighbours helped, the neighbour's daughter helped, my friend helped, who's a swimmer, and eventually we started taking Josh to the pool. He'd sit on the sides, he'd, kick his feet, and then he went in. Now he thinks he doesn't need swimming lessons. He's a tadpole, he's a mermaid, he's a dugong, and that's the power of just slowing things down sometimes and starting small. And sometimes you have to climb up that ladder. You might fall. Clearly, I've fallen off the chair a few times today. But it's okay. You can climb back up. And it's okay. We learn and we grow. And, yeah, it's following their lead. And, yeah.
Yeah. Kate, parents often worry about what success should look like. And I think you've just given really great examples of what it can look like. But how can families reframe their expectations and celebrate progress that might look different but still shows their child is growing in confidence and connection?
Yeah, I think this is so important, and a large part of it is really rooted in our own minds and hearts around accepting the fact that our kids are experiencing the world differently and are different, and being truly at peace and and happy with that. Because I think almost like the key to, well, the jail that you might live in is trying to be like everyone else. And that's not being negative and diminishing the potential for anybody. It's actually just completely embracing joyfully the fact that your life and journey together is going to be different. And as soon as you do that, you will find, I really believe, joy in your life every single day. Your child will be able to experience joy, and as a family, you will be able to feel happy. I think I talk a lot about what is it to be human, and fundamentally, it's about connection with other humans. And so it doesn't matter what disability you or your child or anyone in your family has, we all have capacity for connection with other humans. And so to really believe and know, because probably at the crux of it for any parent, if you said, what do you want for your child? I want them to grow up and be happy. To know no matter what differences or disability your child has, they can have this joyful, happy life and experience connection with other people. That is 100% possible. And yeah, I think people who don't walk this journey perhaps don't have to think about these bigger concepts more carefully, and sometimes they can almost bring us down a little bit. They might not have had to really wrestle with truly knowing that every single person in life is valuable, and that no matter what disability your child has, they might not be someone who grows up to live independently on their own or get married or have a paid job, but their life and existence here in our society is what being human is all about, and their life is still a huge gift to all of us in our family, in our community. To know and to see your child as that valid, valuable person who holds a place in this world, and not feel shame or guilt or worry. And again, to know that they can also be given back to as well and deserve that is, I think, just the game-changing mindset.
Absolutely.
Even just thinking about my eldest daughter as well, I sort of have another, I'll just tell another little story. She had access to her identity really early. That's probably where my professional background did come in handy, and was able to start kindy. So thinking about the power of that as in school age, and probably in term 1 came home and told me one day, I don't think Mr. McGrath knows I have ADHD, because I was trying really, really hard and I got into big trouble and he put my name on the board and da-da-da-da-da. So I think in terms of the power of inclusion that she also experiences now, it's because she's an amazing self-advocate. But I gave her the power to be that self-advocate by completely embracing who she was and not hiding that from her and having no stigma and shame. And so by year 6, she could have new students come into the school and see her carrying her fidget bag, and they'll say, why are you wearing that? And she'll go, oh, because I'm autistic and these help me with my regulation. Thanks, bye.
Love it.
But the thing is, that's not her just going, and I don't care what you think of it. Most people, if you are that at peace with who you are, will be like, oh yeah, cool. And they truly accept you and you truly experience inclusion, but she's leading it. And so with that child of mine, who's not an adult yet, I don't know if they'll ever, when they'll move out, if at all, if they'll go into paid employment, but I'm pretty sure that they've got the potential to be an incredibly fierce advocate, exceed what I'm doing in the world and all of that sort of stuff. And that's super duper. So I lost the track of the question as well, but I think she'll be a success. She already is in my mind, and it's because we just find joy in our family and our life every single day. We're not striving to be not ourselves. Yeah,
amazing. We're going to open up to you guys. So you guys are living this every day, navigating your own unique journeys and facing questions we might not have covered. So this is your chance to ask our panel anything that's on your mind, whether it's about a specific situation that you're dealing with, it might be advice you need, or something that's been sparked from what you've heard today. Does anybody have a question they'd like to ask? Yes, Rosemary. Yeah, we may as well, right?
My son's just about we were going to go to our local primary school, quite reasonable to do that, I thought, but got quite a lot of pushback, and then they didn't even arrange for early intervention or anything. I think that's what they were supposed to do when we said 2 years before. So we went to the special school because that was offered for pre-kinder, they didn't have that. And they have been really amazing there, but we want to go to the primary school for year 5, 6. And I guess trying to navigate how to do that. Got into contact with the school, somebody's going to ring, they didn't, they sent an email to an old email address, and just trying to work out how to change that attitude, and we haven't got much more time for next year, which I did start at last term, but being in hospital and stuff, so saying that she needs to have letters from all the specialists. And she's the work health safety person, and she'll decide what's best for his education and whether he'll be safe there. I know they have an accessible bathroom, because when I went there the first time they were boasting about 3 of the kids there, by name and disability, get their diagnosis, if you please. But then push back about him. So, I guess just any...
This is you too, I reckon.
I know it's sort of a bit.
I'm really mindful.
I'm really taken aback. Like it's just, I knew there might be some, but just to have this attitude in what is it, 2025 going into 2026, where you're supposed to have it. It's not like they haven't got that you can't get into classrooms.
Yeah, and I guess, because I don't know enough about your situation, I don't want to say anything that would. I wonder if this school is the best school to be advocating for your child to go to, if that's where they're meeting you at, what...
Yeah, I hope the attitude will change, because it's so close to home, and it just would mean a lot to
there's holistic value in that community.
Just, we want him to be part of where we are, because I know this other child in particular, everyone says hello to him when he's out and about, because they know him from school. We can walk there. If there is a situation, we can get him home quickly, and we can get him back to school again. I know the first thing might be, well, they don't want me there, I won't go there, but I feel like it's worth fighting for, so that he has some friends around him, because going to the other school is even further away than the one where he's at now, and really, those kids aren't going to, they're not going to protect him if he's out in the community. They're not going to have that case. It's about lots of things.
Yeah. I almost wonder, Stacey, would you have thoughts around, no, that's okay, that's right.
I didn't actually catch the question.
That's right. I mean, I think there's sort of those 2 layers, isn't there? One of how do we handle this systemic issue that seems to be failing us, because they're putting up a lot of red tape in terms of including my child in their community, and then the other is, is there a culture that we need to shift as well in preparation for our arrival, and once we get there too.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I often talk a lot about bravery and vulnerability, and I understand exactly, not your full situation, but I can relate in some ways. I never thought I'd be the parent to take on the department in 2 areas, go to Parliament, my local MP, is that the word?
Yeah.
I never thought, as brave as I thought I was, I never thought I was able to do that. So it depends on how you are. It depends on the energy that you're wanting to put in, because it's hard work and it's a lot. And I guess sometimes we need to understand, what are the battles that we want to fight? Who are we doing it for? And obviously it's for our child, but also sometimes I look at community as a whole, not just for my child. I guess that's why I did that. But again, that's just my story. I'm just giving an example. And I think sometimes it's about drawing awareness, and it's building those relationships and those connections. Not everyone is going to be at the level and of the stage and the journey that we are, and I guess that's okay, whether it's a school, whether it's the local gym. Yes, it's, we want them to be inclusive. We want to, drive inclusion and advocacy. I guess there's ways of drawing awareness in small pockets. And if you can do that with a gentle reminder, if you can do that with a gentle push from your local MP, and, you know, connect with people today, Rosemary, and see if they've experienced some similar things, and good luck, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know you might say, well, I should have done it sooner, but
No.
it's just when you have medical complex
Yep.
stuff, you
Yep,
just
absolutely.
don't have enough spare time.
Yes.
I don't think
So,
anybody
have
in this
all
room
these
would be
ideas.
judging you on that.
No judgment.
I'm sorry
whatsoever.
that's been your experience. That's
Yeah.
that's a lot of us just kind of clutched our pearls when we heard that. I'm sorry. Kelly, I was wondering whether you or Mello maybe would have a Jen had a hand up maybe to have some answers.
So I've recently had a situation with my son going into high school, and the school made us jump through hoops. It's a private school that we want to send him to, and they made us jump through hoops. I knew another family who also applied, and they decided not to go there. But when I spoke to them, they had another school that just said straight away, come to us. And I know that school. I've been a teacher. I used to work there, and I know they're not great around inclusion. So to me, when I then sat back and looked at it, I kind of went, okay, this school made us jump through hoops, but they made sure they had the overall picture and they knew what was actually going, how they were going to make things work best for Lockie. The other school are happy to say, yes, we'll take you, but it doesn't necessarily mean at the end of the day they're going to put those things into place.
Yeah,
So
maybe she's being responsible.
And that's
she could have done it in
so-
a less negative way.
it could have been in a less negative way, and sometimes people don't come across in
Yeah.
the best way. But my suggestion would be continue, because you've got a little bit of time before that 5, 6, continue to have those conversations. Take your child in, let them visit the school, get the school community behind you.
Yeah.
Because school communities, once you get that community, they rally behind their people. So, and that's the experience I've had across schools as a teacher and as a parent. That most of the time, communities do want to be inclusive and they do want to accept your child. So definitely keep having those conversations and don't just take. I had to learn the hard way. Don't just take the like, oh, we want this, this, and this, and we want all these reports and stuff. Don't take that as the bad thing, because it could actually just be them doing their due diligence to make sure they can fully support.
I think she thinks she's doing the right thing, however,
And
the letters that
sometimes
all the
people-
specialists write is stuff that's not relevant.
And
to
sometimes
them,
the way
that's
people
privacy.
communicate that isn't the best way.
Yeah.
They're not used to being able to communicate that in a way that is inclusive. And that's where we come in, and that's where we advocate for our child and we show them, actually, this is what you can do. Yeah, sorry.
Can I just, do you know, just this conversation is just prompting me to think about something, and I hope that the way that we're talking about things today doesn't come across as it's going to be easy to do some of these things, because it's not. And what I've learned is that I needed to become more comfortable being uncomfortable. And I needed to get comfortable in those situations where I was going to be talking. And Jen talked about it, about having those conversations sometimes with the therapist where I'm comfortable. And so we need to, and do you know what? I'm getting better at trying to get comfortable being uncomfortable. For my children, I'll do that. I don't do some of the things that I do for my daughter for myself. And so I hope that any message that you're receiving today is anyone sharing, hey, this is all you need to do. I was sweating so much today, I changed 3 shirts before I got here. People think that, talking comes natural. I was so nervous, it just wasn't funny. And then, I sometimes might even shake when I need to say the things that I need to about Victoria. So, and one of the things that I often talk about, especially in this situation, and I'm not here to advocate mainstream or special unit.
No, it's more the principle. Yeah.
So I always say, hey, you know what, we're not asking for special treatment or anything more than Victoria deserves. In saying that, we don't want anything less that she's entitled to. And so, but we need to go there not in a combative way, we need to go there in a way, because the reality is in most situations, a therapist, an educator, and us as parents, we all want the same thing. We do. Now, sometimes they're making the easy decision instead of the right decision. And then there's organisations, whether it's family advocacy or organisations that have got resources like Plumtree here on their website or Belongside have got resources to help us, because others have travelled this journey that you're travelling, and we don't have to work it out on our own.
Yeah, you've got some, obviously you've got support. You've got anyone helping you advocate or support this?
Not really, and the issue, you know, I feel like it's more for the parents, but I'll get it. Even the physio, you know, she's a great past physio, passed away, and she was amazing. But this one, and she's really great too. She chose somebody before she passed away, but if they even think, you know, oh, these kids, they're better at special school.
Yeah.
You know, but I actually talked to the music therapist. We've just been in hospital this week, the Palcare musical therapist, and he said he acknowledged that some kids have found the transition from the one where we are the junior school, where they have been really great, to the middle school has been a bit tricky, you know, it's tricky or something like that, you know.
I always think of Marlena Canteen, if you know her. Is that how you say her name? Yeah. Her body might need some support on this earth. Her mind does not. She is amazing. Look her up. She's base jumper. She went to uni. She's interviewed like Robbie Williams, some of the most brilliant. She's got a photo with the pole, right? So she communicates through a board. Her body needs support, but her mind is brilliant. So look her up. She's phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, we might need to wrap up this session because we do need to move on. No, that's fine, Rosemary. And I'm sure. Yeah. Have you got a question? Or I do have one more question. Unless anyone else has got one more question that they would like to throw out there. Yes. Yes, please.
Thank you, for sharing all your experiences and your stories, and I loved hearing a couple of sibling stories there. So I'm going to be the sibling token person. Would love to know how you're involving siblings in goal setting and planning.
Good question.
Yeah.
Can I extend that?
Yeah.
If you have an older sibling, so in my case I have a 21-year-old daughter and the next is 9 years old. If you have that situation and you have ideas on how to extend that planning, I would love to hear them.
It's hard work. So my Josh is 11, and my Moody, who's just found out he's also neurodivergent, is 16. I'm the only, delightfully different female in the house, and it's very hard, I've got to say. Every journey, every moment is a learning moment, regardless whether it's hard, fun, a celebration. I'm really fortunate that my Moody is a great young carer to his brother. He might not admit it. He will tell you he's frustrating. But that's sibling rivalry, right? Creating opportunities to model and support, but also remembering that they're also a human or a child still in, my Moody's case is really important. Involving them in anything possible, but also giving them the time that they deserve, because they're also your child and your baby. Don't tell Moody I called him my baby. He won't like that. And just reminding them, like we remind ourselves, that it's a learning journey. It's as hard as it may seem sometimes, and as challenging as it can be. I think trying to find moments where their role is so powerful. Like I sit with Moody sometimes, and I do Joshua's reports, and sometimes he'll correct me and say, "No, Mum, Josh actually does that really well." And I can see that uplifting presence of that leadership, that support that I know he has, and that love that he has for his brother. As he gets older, he might not show nicely because they're rivals, but it's really important to share those moments of joy, because when you are a young carer, it's tough. And especially in my case, my son often, when there are big challenges with Josh, has to, really step up and help. And that's a lot for a 16-year-old. I share your passion around sibling support, Melissa. So I understand, but I think the biggest thing we can do for our for young carers and for siblings is connect them through support services and agencies like Young Carers, through Carer Gateway. That's what I got my son in. Having support groups, building a village and a network like we have for ourselves, and finding moments where the siblings can connect. Connection is so important and so is fun. COVID was the best thing for us because they had no other choice. So we cooked, we learnt, we connected. It was cabin fever for a while, but we connected, and I love those moments because we could enjoy, we could have fun in those natural routines of being a family. But I guess I would say building a village for the siblings, like we want to have siblings, like we want to have villages for ourselves, because they've got rights. They deserve to be validated as carers and as siblings just as much as us. And there's Young Siblings Australia, is there? So that's another fantastic one as well.
I just want to add to that too, like my daughter's in year 7 and my son is in year 5. And so even just within our NDIS goals, we actually have goals around Dax being able to support Dylan in all of her endeavours. She's very sporty, and without having those goals within our plan, I wouldn't be able to access support workers so she could be at everything that she needs to be at. Another thing that's come up recently is we're in talks with high school. They'll go to the same high school in 2027. Our team from the Cerebral Palsy Alliance came down to the school, and we talked about some education around the school about Dax and cerebral palsy and how he communicates. But one of the big things about that is we're going to involve Dylan in that. So what's been shared at the school, that she's okay with what's being shared. So she'll have involvement, she'll have a say in what we're telling people and how it's being told, so that we can respect her privacy and what she wants. I mean, everybody knows that they're brother and sister, and she's quite comfortable now, but when he's in year 7, she's going to be in year 9, she's going to be at a different stage developmentally, she's going to be thinking about boys and what everyone thinks of her, so really involving her in those discussions as well is a really big part of our plan. Did anyone else have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, I think in my, like wearing my therapist hat, I meet so many families with a child with a disability that's more readily recognised earlier on, and then we have the neurodivergent siblings who are now getting diagnosed in adolescence, and there's all this internalised ableism and trauma for them because of the trauma that they have as the sibling, and then being told you are also autistic, and you look at this younger sibling who's caused you so much stress and you think, I am nothing like them. And that's really, really hard. And so validating that and being able to, again, just truly acknowledge the diversity and have those conversations so that they can explore their own identity, understand their own lived experience, and move forward positively when they are sitting there trying to have their first consultation with a therapist while they still have their 7-year-old, sibling stimming in the corner going, see, this is literally why I'm, struggling. I'm fine. It's them. So that's all, quite big. But I would say in my own family, again, just sharing from my own story, definitely the most, I suppose, high support needs child that I have is my eldest, who's a teenager. And we had big developmental regression when we entered puberty, and very, very high support, risky, dangerous behaviours, all of that. So my 5-year-old knows very well, but has really internalised, oh, this is my big sister, and, she's dangerous and she's this and she's that, and we now have to have all the narratives that reshape that. Well, actually, we did have a time when hormones were shifting where things felt like that in our family, but actually we're a lot calmer now, and we see, we have to really carefully and explicitly manage the fact that we're all growing and that you're all growing, and it's not going to be like that forever. Because the flip side for my eldest as well is one of the most fun siblings that you could ever wish for. You're going to have the sibling who's going to be like, let's tear apart this squishmallow and take it in the trampoline and make snow angels with the fluff out of the squishmallow. And what if we get some shaving cream as well and amp it up a notch, or, dinosaurs in the bathtub. So there's so much joy, that comes from that brain. And
did you just get a vision of that? I did.
I mean, we had a big laugh this
Yeah.
year because we do have lots of things in our house
wanna know
that
about the
have
cleanup.
holes cut in them, like tea towels and even our couch. And
Yeah.
my daughter came to me and was like, I got something funny to show you. And she was like, look, the cleaners made my bed with my Halloween costume because it was the sheet with the 2 eyes cut out and it was actually on the bed. And we were like, well, we can kind of understand how in our house that happened. But
Bless.
those are our joyful moments. And, you know, it sort of just makes sense because that's the family that we have. Yeah, and I'm actually pregnant and having another baby. And my eldest is so
Congratulations.
excited. She's
Love it.
actually going to be baking the gender reveal cake. And that's a huge act of impulse control, like challenge. And I actually trust that she's going to nail it. I don't
Love
think she's going to, you know, and she'll be finished school when this one starts school. And I think that there could be a real role for her to be the carer.
Yeah.
Even though that's not the way we think of her right now. So, yeah.
I think Frank's
got a, then I was going to say Frank's got a sneaky question over there too.
Frank, go for it.
Yeah, thank you. It's just a comment on involving the children in youth clubs and sports and stuff like that. I am a volunteer scout leader as well, and obviously having neurodiverse children myself, I do have a lot of experience and understanding, but sometimes the parents just send them and without telling us.
Yeah.
And then for me, those children, even though I try to be very open since I have the experience and we do have other children that I know of and have good conversations with children, but when the parents haven't told me, then for me, they're just a naughty child.
Yeah.
But if I actually know and they sort of explain to me, hey, this child, we're going through a process of diagnosis, we don't know yet, or we have these diagnoses, this is how best can help them. Just as you talk to school or the therapist, then it's a lot easier for me to, okay, the child woke off in the background, well that's fine,
That's
I
fine,
understand why,
Yeah.
but if I don't know that, oh, you're gonna sit down and complain.
Yeah.
And really trying to, and that's an important part that we as parents can do as well, in that trying to make sure they are included and seen for who they are, and also remembering that a lot of the people are volunteers. They might not have the training as a teacher or as a therapist have, or at least teachers should have, in terms of doing this, because they're spending their time for free, caring for 20 children for a couple of hours every week and without being paid. So it is important to remember that as well.
I've found an interesting flip. I've been doing some work in Western Sydney, and some of the families out there, they're finding that if they share too much about their child isn't allowed to do something, including school, including clubs.
Yeah.
So there's almost like this, you know, we may be the age of our children where we've been very open. I mean, my child looks like she's got a disability, but for the hidden disability world, you know, our group possibly, like in Belongside Families, Plumtree, we've sort of been very open about our children with disability, but there's this real flip of going, if I tell them too soon about my child who is XYZ, they're not going to be included. And I wonder whether that's the same with clubs, because it is with schools. Trying not to get a diagnosis, putting it off, even though we know early intervention is important. So.
But
I don't know
also
if
some
anybody else
parents
is-
are on different journeys.
Yeah.
And it's not always just about, I know, but I'm embarrassed, or I want to hide it, in that sense.
Cultural maybe.
Could be cultural, but it's also, and I see it a lot in early childhood. A lot of families, and I'm getting this a lot at Joshua's school because we have a neurodiversity group, and I'm on the diversity committee group, and a lot of families say, "Oh, I didn't know. Could my son or daughter be this?" And it's that uncertainty. It's them. They've never known anything different. And I think it's that journey that sometimes we need to be aware of, that they may not understand yet.
Just have a suggestion. Perhaps you could offer some, like those
Slogans.
and then at the beginning, and you say something like, for me, I went somewhere the other day where my daughter had an experience of feeling excluded, and I made a complaint and suggested that they say something on their thing like, they learned and grew from it or whatever, and I said, well, why don't you have a sign that says we welcome families, neurodivergent families, so they feel welcome, and then please take an invisible lanyard if your child needs some extra support, and almost prompt them to, that you're a safe space, that they can talk to you about that, so you're just aware.
Because I think, yes, a lot of parents want their child to lead with their child's natural strengths. The strengths are there, but then quickly the vulnerabilities also pop up. And
And I totally get that. And I could say for the scout group I'm a part of, we wouldn't exclude someone because of the disability, but I'm not going to say that all others don't. I have a point that the parents might not necessarily feel comfortable about it yet, but I just know my personal opinion, if I know, because I have the experience I have in my family life, I can better support your children. If you had a conversation, I'm not going to tell all the other kids because of that, because then that's up to your own child.
Or even the little rubber and the little rubber ones are good. If a lanyard becomes a
But sometimes our children don't want to be identified.
That's right.
And my kids both, I can see them going in on themselves. Sorry.
Don't apologise.
When I ask them to identify this about themselves in public, they're not comfortable with it yet. What I need is for the adults to give me 3 minutes without my kids being around, so I can go, they're not comfortable, please know this, and that. Sorry.
Don't apologise.
Don't apologise. And also, thank you for volunteering to look after 20 kids for 2 hours. Wow.
We just got a question over that.
I think it's more a little bit different from what Smith has, but it's still connected to what we're talking about, belonging and inclusion. And I think I'm more interested about the wider community. I've had this in mind. I've had this experience like maybe a couple of years ago when my child was still 3 years old. So we are very new. Sorry, I apologize. I'm very new to the training. I'm very new to this situation. We don't have much family in here. I am not so familiar about putting a child in education in Australia. So I also have to fight for that one, to advocate for him. I did succeed on that one, thank God. I have to involve the local MP. I have to contact the inclusion support in the Department of Education, all those things. But I think the more important question for me is that acceptance from the wider community. I've experienced someone when we were just we just came from a 2-hour therapy back to back, and we're using public transport. There's this elderly woman who said, because my son it's 2 hours, he's only 3 years old. It's about 12 in the afternoon, so he's a little bit like grumpy. I've given him all the snacks, but he's been done. So he's like asking for more, but then we're in a bus, I can't just get off, something like that. And then he didn't actually throw a tantrum. It's just that he's a little bit like, he's nonverbal. And then this lady said, is he autistic? And I'm like, pardon? Is he autistic? And I'm like, yes, he is. Like, it's the first time that I've acknowledged it. And then he said, it's a very difficult life. I was like, at that stage, I was just trying to to think it all, what she's saying. I wanted to talk, but then I'd calm down and say, she's an older woman. We have to respect her. But then I was like, I'm feeling inside. I was actually praying to God, saying, I'm telling God, if this woman would actually get off this bus with us, I'm going to talk to her. And I'm going to be telling her, you know what, my life, this is not a hard life. Maybe for you, it looks like. Yes, I know it's challenging. And someone told me that it's challenging but rewarding. You don't get butterfly kisses just every now and then when they want. And I'm like, this is what I was supposed to tell that woman, that you know what? This is not a hard life. This boy has a future. One day, and I'm working for that. We are educating him, teaching him. making the best option for him.
Yeah.
And the sad thing is that one day when he becomes better, that he'll find his way in this world. He'll be someone next. So he'll be someone in the future, and sadly, you and I may not be there to witness it. That was what was on my mind, but then I didn't say it. I'm like, right now, I'm looking at how people are actually accepting that there are kids who are, going through a lot in life, but can't be any kinder. How do we actually deal with that? Like, I haven't had a completely.
Everyone took a deep breath then, because I think there's definitely sometimes where people choose to educate, and there's sometimes people that will choose to just walk away, and it's really in that moment and how you feel and whether you have the time and the patience, and you don't know how it's going to be received. Helen would probably be great to speak to that.
I think everyone's had some completely hearing that, and we've all been through bits and pieces, of course, similar, but at some point, I mean, myself included, I think most of us children with additional needs, especially early on, want to educate the world and change the world. But I can safely say that the world has a lot to learn about a lot of things. Yeah, this is just one thing, and you can educate as many people as you like, but the only thing that actually makes a difference is educating your kid, building up their self-esteem and their confidence in themselves, because no matter what comes at them from the outside world, it'll just slide right off them if they've got that self-esteem and confidence from you. The others don't matter. Yeah?
Yeah.
So you can tell already you're doing a wonderful job of how much you care and how much heart you've got, and
Absolutely.
that's what matters at the end. You have the control to educate him. And I've seen it from childhood to adulthood with so many different people when they've got that self-esteem and confidence, and go and get us helping. Am I right? Quite a few people.
Yeah.
So build up himself on the inside. That's focus on your kid. That's it, and yourself. Take care of yourself. It's the most important things.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We've just got one more question. We'll make it quick.
I think we're all crying with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's epic. I feel like I don't know how to follow that. I guess I'm thinking like it's not that it's not hard, because it is really hard, but it's not bad, and it's awful for someone to make you feel in any way that it's bad, because it's not bad. It's just life.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I feel that way all the time. I always feel like it's really hard. And I guess I'm hearing everyone, so we're also at the beginning of a journey where our kid is 5, is about to start school. It's terrifying. We feel really lucky that we've got this amazing school, and heartbroken for people who don't have that same situation. I'm hearing like, slow down, meet these kids at their level, and maybe that's like the only answer, but I feel like the challenge I face the most is like, how do I know when to push this child and say, come on, like, you have to try, like, more. No, it's not okay to pull apart the squishmallow and put shaving cream all over the trampoline. And when do I go like, okay, just flex, like, I have to sit with him for 10 minutes every time it's time to leave the house, or half an hour, or an hour, because he just doesn't want to leave the house and he just needs me to sit with him. And when do I go like, no, this is the line, this is how it is. And I guess like, does it get easy? How do you learn that? When do you learn that? I'm like, it's like when they were a baby and they were like, oh, you just, you see when they're tired. I'm like, I didn't know when he was tired. How do you learn to read these signs? Like, everyone's saying you know your child. I'm like, but it's hard to learn how to know your child.
I would say being deeply in tune with your own capacity is the kicker, because I, a lot of the time, feel like I've got pretty good capacity, but even I lose it. I just heard this banging in the bathroom the other day, and I was thinking, oh gosh, that glass shower thing is going to be shattered. And I went in, and I could see where the bang, and I just went, stop it, this is not okay. And there was a stop and a but this comes back to core roots parenting stuff as well, which is another big passion of mine, which is about then what do you do next, and that's repair. And I really consistently do that with my kids, so much so that I could tell them I hate them and they would go, yeah. No, you don't. Yeah. And so that's good, and that is protective, and it's not saying it's okay to say stuff like that to your kids all the time. And the other, I guess, again, broad parenting line though is it's okay to not actively parent. Like in a hard moment on a tough day for you, the decision is do no harm. And as soon as I make that decision and I go, you know what, we're actually going to watch Minecraft vloggers while eating chocolate on the couch, but I'm going to be hugging you and we're going to be co-regulating. And I just, as soon as I give up and do no active parenting, I'm doing no harm, it actually only takes me 5 minutes to have capacity again. It's like magic. So, let the squishmallow actively parent when you can and don't
Pick
when
your
you
battles.
can't. Yeah.
Pick your battles, and it's okay to set boundaries, I guess, right? So,
and I think knowing your child, oh my gosh, they're so complex. How do you do that?
Yeah.
But knowing what they've just come from, or knowing what's just happened, or knowing the school was hard, or daycare, or wherever they are. So it's knowing the other stuff and trying to get to know your kid. I think you're right. Like going, oh, I know my kid through and through. They surprise you all the time, right?
Yeah.
But knowing some of the social structures that are in place that have broken down that day, or the people that have. So I think that
because
is.
we're often their safe space and the ones that they lash out on, right? And that's what they do.
All right. Did you want to add something really quickly, Layla,
Oh,
before
I
we
just
finish
think
up?
it's like it's not one hard or fast rule. Like their capacity changes so much. So one day you'll do the 10 minutes, and that's what you need to do to get them out the door. And then the next day, you might not. It might be less than that. It's like kind of just knowing that it's taking it day by day with the signs they're showing you when you can pick them up, because their capacity really feeds into how much they can handle and take.
Thank you everyone for your questions and your input. Thank you so much to our speakers. I feel like we could have an open forum session at the next conference where we all just sit and talk to each other for an hour.